Welcome, everybody, to the Success Elevated podcast. As always, I'm your host, Hayden Lee, and I am joined this week by a friend of mine, friend of the podcast, friend of the show, Michael Tominaga, VP of Digital at Get Found First. Thanks for coming on the show.
Hey, anytime. Big fan of the show.
Big fan of the yes,
I'm just in the background watching, wishing for that day.
We have one fan, we have one listener, we've done it. Okay, awesome. Michael, you work at the sister company to Spot On Solutions, and excited to have you on to talk about all things marketing. But I wanted to talk first and foremost about how I would say two guys, because I'm also from Snake River, but how a guy from Snake River, small town Blackfoot, Idaho, ends up working at a large multi-million-dollar marketing agency. How does that happen? What kind of steps or pieces of your career led you to where you are?
It's kind of funny. In hindsight, it's all kind of 2020. It all pieces together, and you're like, "Oh, this makes perfect sense." But definitely in the moment, you start wondering, where is this all going to end? where am I going to be? Because I can remember super vividly in high school writing a paper my junior year saying, I want to do something in computer science. I want to be a programmer. I want to get out of Idaho. I'm not going to live here. Not because I hate Idaho. I love Idaho, but
more opportunities outside. Yeah.
There's nothing here for me.
Yeah.
And, you'll ask my parents and they'll be like, oh, well, Michael's always been kind of that techie kid.
Yeah.
Loved, anything to do with, tech and computers and all that. And they're like, oh, there's no way. He's not going to stay in farm. He's not running the family farm. Which, they're right. I was never going to run that family farm.
That's awesome.
But, coming full circle, you see where it ends. It just aligns so well with our vision, our mission, and what we do here of, we can be from a small town, but do big things.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So seeing that come full circle has been super, super cool.
So I did some research a couple different ways. Mm-hmm. So stalked your LinkedIn because I wasn't sure what your degree was in, as well as talked to my wife because you guys both went to BYU at the same time.
Yeah.
So how does a guy with a major in recreation management and hospitality end up? I mean, you say you're a techie guy, which I think there's some natural tendencies there, but what was your, I guess, original goal? And then how do you're like, man, I'm going to do digital marketing instead?
So you'll laugh. So after graduating, went to BYU right out of the gates. I remember my mom saying, hey, you're out in 2 weeks right after graduation. And I started college 2 weeks after high school graduation.
That's awesome.
And from there, I kind of knew that I wanted to do something in business. I wanted to do something in computers, some in that. And so I was building small websites. And I remember going for that first semester and then leaving, on my 2-year mission and then coming back. And what ended up happening was I got hired by a good friend's uncle to do their marketing. And so I started building a little website for them. There was a monument company.
Yeah.
And started doing little stuff like that. And when I got into school, I realized that I was a Bijan, not an Asian. And so getting into the business school at BYU might not have been as realistic for some of that. But what happened was recreation management got moved to the Marriott School of Business. And the first year they had open enrollment because they didn't know who was going to apply.
You're like, I'm in. That's my end.
And so I was like, I'm in. I'm going to get into the business school because all of my core classes were the same. Electives, you had different electives, but I ended up getting in and out in 4 years of school. And when I got ready to apply for graduation, they're like, you actually don't have enough credits. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I've finished my major, my requirements for my bachelor's degree, everything like that. And they're like, well, you needed more electives. Usually kids don't get through school this fast. They usually have a few more screw around classes. And we need you to do another semester.
You to go take golf and PE. And
that's exactly what I took. It was some geography classes, a geology class. And so really what that was in rec management was there was a ton that I learned that I use today, especially about experience. When we look at business, one of the things that have really stuck with me is a theme from my undergrad was with technology progressing as fast as it is, we all sell commodities. I mean, in
Yeah.
some nature, there's a million other agencies that do exactly what we do.
Yep.
But what we're providing them is an experience.
Yeah.
How do we do a better job of doing that service, as well as how do we help them feel, important and feel like their business is our priority?
That's cool, man. I didn't know that background of getting into the business school, but like your mindset I think is 100% spot on. And we'll talk more, obviously, digital marketing and the agency stuff, but like there are I don't know the exact, but I'm sure there are thousands of agencies in the US that do digital marketing that help people grow their business. But so you've got to find a way to differentiate yourself, and how we do that is with providing a better experience to our customers, and whether it's being more transparent or better reporting or better communication, whatever it might be. I think that's the piece that separates us. Go ahead.
I was just say it's interesting to see how we continue to excel in that, and it comes back. I mean, yesterday in our meeting, talking about culture and all that, I think that's so much of who we are. And so experience is huge, and that's only going to become a larger part as we continue to grow, is being different than the big city agencies that you're just a number.
The 100%, dude. So you mentioned culture a little bit. You were one of the first employees. In fact, I mean, I don't want to age it because it wasn't like it was that long ago, but it was it wasn't even called Get Found First.
No,
the agency was called Perfect Point Marketing.
Yeah.
So how did you end up first starting out at Perfect Point? And kind of talk a little bit about what your job description was, what you did. Yeah.
So it's kind of funny. So picking up right after graduation, like that story. So it was really cool of getting experience with a monument company. I really got that entrepreneurial spirit to go and do my own thing. I also, while I was down there, got a lot of sales experience with Qualtrics, doing software sales and being in kind of in the big tech world. And so what brought me back to Blackfoot was actually starting a monument company.
That's cool.
And what's crazy is clear up to the day we were going to open, and the office that I was going to be in was actually just on the one way.
Okay.
And what ended up happening was my partner that had run the one in Utah just decided, hey, I'm going to go a different way. I'm sorry, I'm out. And I was like, what am I going to do at this office? What am I going to do with all this stuff?
Yeah.
Like I've got a lot of things that I've gotten in line,
invested into this.
Nothing.
Yeah. Yep.
And so I remember that week talking with, family and friends. And at the time, one of my friends, she reached out to me. She's like, hey, Michael and Katie are hiring someone. And come to find out, there's a funny story behind that. But ended up talking with them because I had applied for a bunch of jobs. I remember having a job offer from Netmark, the other marketing agency in Idle Falls. And then, going to lunch with Michael and Katie and just being like, you know what, I need to scratch that itch of being an entrepreneur in this case, of starting with something young and trying to build it, and just feeling like I'm going to take a risk. I want to do it now, and I want to see where it goes. And so that led to, getting with them at Perfect Point Marketing. And at that point I was like, director of digital marketing or director of sales type role. And so essentially started out as a sales guy. And so once I sold someone, I'd then fulfill for them. And then when they needed something, they'd call, hey, I need help with this. And so it was like customer support. And then you just start that cycle and just keep going. So.
It was, you guys were, I mean, it was like, it was, it's not, it was like, it was, you worked at a startup. It was a startup, and you had to, you were doing everything from A to Z, from selling them, contacting them and selling them. And then, having to fulfill for them. Was that challenging where, I think a lot of people in sales roles, they have, I don't want to say it's a luxury, but they have this ability to be like, I'm going to sell them. I'm going to work with them to kind of develop this plan. And then I can pass it off, step out and let the fulfillment team kind of handle it. Was that challenging to not have that? Like there's nobody else you can say, oh, let me go talk to my team. It's like, it's me.
Yeah. And I think that because there's not that like second line of defense, of course I had Michael and Katie and we could try to finagle some of that. But I think that also taught me at an early stage of my career of how to critical think, how to problem solve, how to read people.
Yeah.
Because you're like, I don't know if you're mad or if you're just disappointed or what. Like when something does happen for if it was our fault or a external thing, it definitely taught me a lot of those hard skills early on that I think really helped me continue to progress. And it wasn't always easy, but I tell you what, some of my most fondest memories are those early years.
Yeah.
You know, the hustle, the thrill, the adrenaline of being able to close. If you were to ask Michael, one of my favorite stories of early on is we closed an e-commerce business in Idle Falls. They sold gluten-free like bread mixes, cake mixes, and all that. And I remember we were so excited that night because we had to go meet with her after work. We closed her and we went and got a celebratory dinner, and we ate at this sushi place, and we got sick, but we didn't care because we were so excited to close an e-commerce client.
It's sushi in Idaho. That's weird. Yeah, it's weird,
right?
We've
come a long ways.
We've come a long ways. We've come a long ways. No, that's man, that's so cool. And like there's something attractive about working at a startup. Like I've interviewed a couple of gentlemen came on the podcast that talked about working at startups, and they're at startups currently. And there's something very like we romanticize it. Like and it's cool. And we do it for good reason, because there's something cool about like, hey, I'm a part of this company. It's a small team, but I get to be a part of every success and every, part of the failures too, but every success that happens. And I'm working with clients, and there's the rush of the everyday, and it's a grind and all of that. But there's something really, really cool about working in an environment like that.
I just think it teaches you so much, because learning what I learned there in those early years, and then even going like after that is when I went to go get my MBA. I went and worked at Idaho Central Credit Union, helped launch their current website that they have, as well as worked on their SEO and paid media efforts. You start to realize the agency life versus an internal marketing team side. There's different dynamics, but as you understand both, you're just able to get so much more done. And so I think it's a great experience for anyone to be able to work in a startup setting, as well as some more structured internal settings that just teach you things that you'd never find if you just lived in one world or the other.
Yeah, so cool. You mentioned going away for a little while and then eventually coming back. Talk a little bit about what that was like, why you made the decision to come back. You said you went and got a master's degree and went and got some more experience elsewhere. Why make the leap back to what it was at the time? Was Get Found First? It changed back to Get Found, or changed to Get Found First.
I mean, to be totally honest, it was a time where I was like, okay, I want to further my education. We were still a small startup, and I needed to get benefits, and we didn't quite have those. And while I was going to school, I needed something that I could kind of have a little bit more structure on, so I could attend school and do that as well. And so those were the main reasons. Did I miss it? 100%.
Oh yeah.
The thrill, the rush, like
it
was right when we were ready to buy Get Found First, and so there was a lot of things going on. But as I look back in hindsight, it was probably one of the best things I could have done, because one, stepping away to get some formal education, but two, working at ICCU was awesome, because I was able to increase a lot of my technical skills. I mean, I was working with 100+ person IT department,
right,
and learning a lot of that tech stuff, especially with a launch of a website as large as theirs, was so insightful, and I learned so many things on the fly. And so coming back, it was really cool how kind of timing played into this, because I just finished my master's degree, and I was feeling like, you know what, I need something more. Now that that's off my plate and I'm done, I want to keep progressing, and I'm ready to make the next step. And lo and behold, the universe has a way of bringing you to where you need to be. And I remember being at a high school basketball game at Century High School, and I look over, and Michael and Katie are right there watching Katie's son at a freshman game, and I was like, "Oh, hey guys, what's up?"
What's up?
And we had a fantastic conversation. Michael and I had still text during the time. We were still good friends and whatnot. But sitting there having that discussion of like, hey, how's business? What's new? And them feeling like, hey, we need more people. We need to grow this thing. Like this has been a huge rush. They had signed some large clients, and the agency was just growing at a crazy rate. And they're like, we need another person to kind of step back into this. And yeah, I mean, one thing led to another after that basketball game, but another dinner, and we kind of joke about this. Like we always make decisions, with food.
With food. Yep. It's a great way to make decisions.
Yeah, it's great. And one thing led to another. And by 2018, it was like, hey, back, and felt like I had never gone away. It was cool. A really cool feeling. And it's been, now being back, I mean, shoot, almost 5 years.
Yeah.
It's been just an awesome ride.
Plus your time before. I mean, you're one of the OG employees. One of the first.
I can say we've made some cool moves through the time of our office. I mean, first starting out technically remote. I worked from home at my parents' house when I moved home.
Yep.
And then went to working out at Derek's old office.
Yes.
At Spot On, and or on the spot, and then moving to Broadway, 45 North, or 61 North Broadway, and then to 45 North Broadway, and then here. It's just so cool to see the progression.
Oh yeah, man.
And all the great stories.
I only really got to catch kind of the tail end of that, but yeah, I would say we're in a pretty good place now.
Yeah, it's not bad. I mean, my first technical office space was out on the mezzanine in Derek's shop. And I remember being on sales
freezing,
calls.
Probably not insulated very well, yeah.
One freezing, and so I had a space heater that always stayed by me with my coat on.
Yes.
But I'd be on sales calls, and you'd hear a truck backing into the bay. Beep, beep, beep.
And they're like, what's going on?
Like, what's that? And I'm, sorry, I'm just getting some interference here. But it makes for such a great story.
Oh yeah, man.
Even out there, I remember just so many cool things of like starting the apparel business. We had this huge whiteboard, and it was kind of like the place where we war planned, and we're like, oh, what are we gonna do? Who are we gonna go after? And it was just such a cool thing being out there with Michael and Katie.
Oh, that's awesome, man. So talk a little bit. You've obviously made some big changes and jumps between companies, and we're at a much different place now in 2023 than you were 5, 6, 7 years ago. So talk a little bit about your role. How has your role changed? What is, because you maybe aren't as involved from A to Z as you used to be, right? Which is a good thing. As companies grow, you have to start taking some of those hats and giving them to other people. So talk a little bit about how your role has changed, what you've had to do to learn how to develop into it, a different management type position.
Yeah. It was, as I look back, it was easy in some ways, a lot easier when it was the three of us, because I could control the actions. It was kind of like I could manage a system.
And you had no one to blame but yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so as we continue to grow, while that provided a lot of help in a lot of different ways, it was a difficult. And so I think looking at how things have changed in roles is, yes, I still get on sales calls. I still, fulfill with clients. I still help with, HR and some of the employee training and leveling up. But I think the biggest difference now is how can I impact things at a high level rather than just the client facing side of things.
Right.
And that's hard, because client facing is at its core is what I love to do.
Right.
Like I had a lot of conversations. Anybody that's ever come to me to talk like mentoring or what should I do? How do I find a career? Every time I come back to, what is it that you love? What motivates you? And for me, it's people.
People. Yep.
And it doesn't matter if it's teammates. I want to work in that team scenario or setting, or whether it's my clients. I want to be involved with problem solving for people.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of changed over the years. Like, yes, like to your point, I might not be as in the weeds as it used to be, but now it's like, how can I make a better experience for everyone?
Yeah.
For all the teams that I help kind of direct and guide.
Well, and you probably, because my role hasn't changed like yours has, but it's changed slightly, I would
Mm-hmm.
say, since I started. It allows me to also like work because I love people and I love helping people and working with them to like accomplish their goals. And I might not do that as much on a client basis as what I did when I started, but now I get to help my teammates
Yeah.
reach their goals and reach their potential and help them be better people, right? And so I think it fulfills that itch for you, but it's in a different way, right?
Yeah.
Like you're helping your coworkers and,
Mm-hmm.
and employees here at Get Found First and even Spot On Solutions too, like develop and grow and accomplish their goals.
And there's been so many great mentors along the way. I mean, there's so many like aha moments I can look back to, different trainings or different people that have said things that it just clicks and you're like, okay, I need to do this better. I need to try this approach. Like the old way isn't going to work. I need to, adjust anyway. And that's kind of the cool thing about being in the position I am now. And especially being in the agency world is we have the opportunity to change really quickly.
Yeah.
And we have the opportunity to learn a lot really quickly. And that just has been awesome because I think that's helped me develop into a better person. And it's kind of helping me paint the picture of the better self I want to be as we continue to ride this out.
Oh, that's cool, man. Well, you hit it. Kind of the next big thing I wanted to talk with you about is, I've only been doing digital marketing type stuff for a little while now, but even in my shorter time, digital marketing changes all the freaking time.
Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah. It's a mess.
It's constantly. So like, speak a little bit to that. How has digital marketing changed since you first started?
Yeah.
With Katie and Derek and Michael, how has it changed since you first started? What are some things that we do differently now that we have to do differently now? What are some things that have changed over the years?
A lot of the core things are the same, right? Like we need a website.
You gotta have a foundation. Gotta have the website.
We've got some of those base things like Google PPC has been around forever. SEO has been around forever. And what changes though are the nuances, the little things. Yeah. And at the end of the day, what I think a lot of these big platforms are trying to do, of course, is provide a better customer experience. Yep. If Google wasn't relevant, people wouldn't use it. And the same goes for Microsoft, Facebook, all these large platforms that we market and advertise on. But the differences kind of come in the way that maybe how do we approach like the technical side, or maybe how we target certain audiences. And so that's where I think digital marketing has changed a lot, is our tactics keep changing. Yeah. We never there's not this like playbook that just stays the same.
No, unfortunately.
Like you wish that, oh man, my circa 2014 playbook could work, here in 2023. And that's not the case because the technology is just different. I mean, smartphones have come so far. In between that time of when I started, tablets started to become a fad and phase out. Like, we've seen life cycles of different products and technology 100%. That have come in and out. And so I think that's the biggest thing, is everybody's got the next best idea. Some of those stick, some of those don't, but they change the landscape every day of how we use things.
It's fascinating to see, all the changes that happen. And while I might not have been in digital marketing, just the world changes and trends change. And like, there's a half dozen social media platforms that we have today that weren't around in 2014, right? Mm-hmm. Like, so like, it's like, we have to be aware of all those things as marketers, and how are we going to best help our clients? Like, does my client need to be aware of TikTok? Do they need to be on TikTok? What do they need to be doing with it? Stuff like that. Like, you've got to, as a marketer, as someone that works in the agency world, like, you've got to just constantly, you don't necessarily have to implement everything, but just be aware of everything that's going on and how the landscape changes.
I think the biggest thing and advice that I'd give to anyone is just weed through the smoke. Some, like you said, you don't have to implement everything that comes, but ask yourself the question of, could this benefit me? If it does, great, do it. But if it's like not enough, or it's a no, don't get caught up in the fad. It just burns way too much of your time trying to implement something that just doesn't work.
that speaks to, the question that I always kind of pose to myself and other team members is like, yeah, how do we help educate our clients on what's going on and what's changing? And you talked about that. Yeah, like do some self reflection evaluation. Is this going to help me? Does this work for me? Is there anything else that like you feel like you try to communicate to clients as the landscape changes? Like I'll give you the example. We talked about it briefly before we got on. I have a client that I'm helping with their local service ads account. Yeah. Which if you don't know what that is, it's you can do a quick Google search, but it's a way for, if you're in the home service industry, it's a way for you to just connect and get more leads and connect with your customers a little bit better. Setting up a local service ads account for them literally a month ago, you were only required to have one verified review on your Google business profile. Wow. Now you have to have 5.
Yep.
Something just as simple as that has changed in a month. So if you were to give me some advice, how do I communicate that in a way to my client that they're not like frustrated with me and not frustrated with Google, and don't just like say, well, cut the whole thing. How do
I'm out.
Yeah, I'm out. I'm done. What's a way to communicate that to clients?
The biggest thing whenever we start with a new client, I try to communicate that everything's going to be fluid.
Yeah.
We're going to be responsive. We're going to try to pivot as things come your way. But the thing that you can rest assured is that we will make those moves. Yep. We won't be, behind the 8 ball and something happens. So in your case, hey, I'm bringing this to you because this just changed.
Yeah.
I'm on top of this. I got you.
We're already working on this.
Yeah. Whereas you could have let that go and, 1-2 months down the road, they're like, hey, how come we haven't been getting any leads forever? And it's like, oh, well, it's because you guys don't have enough reviews.
And they're like, well, you could have told us this months ago. Yeah. Yeah.
And so I think that's the thing to always communicate is we're the middleman. Yep. But being the middleman, our obligation is to protect the client. Yes, Google is, a big juggernaut in the tech world and they control a lot of what we do. But at the end of the day, our responsibility is to helping our client leverage these platforms to grow their business. And so that's how you can kind of view yourself as that mediator between the two of, hey, yeah, you need to do this, or hey, let's be in a hold pattern and see how this plays out.
There's a bunch of different ways to phrase this, but I've heard it said a million different ways. Like you want to try and be proactive, not reactive, especially when you're communicating to, clients or customers, right? You want to act, not be acted upon, right? Yep. Like there's a million different ways to phrase that, but I think 100%, while we are reacting to what Google tells us or what Facebook tells us, being proactive in the sense that like, hey, we're going to communicate these changes to our clients. We're going to help them understand what's going on. We're going to communicate these changes to customers, right? Like, we deal with a lot of the home service industry, like communicate changes that might be happening in the restoration space or the carpet cleaning space. Like if you're going to change how you're going to do things, like communicate that to your customers so they're aware of what's going on.
What I've loved is our team each day is looking for that. And one like solid example that we've done with our e-commerce clients is Google got rid of smart shopping this last year. Yep. They, kind of did away with traditional shopping years ago, but it's kind of lived to this point. Now PMAX is the big hype in the deal, but it wasn't a smooth transition for all businesses. And so the way that our team kind of took that approach is, well, if PMAX is what we have, how do we make it work? And what they ended up, finding out is, well, let's manipulate PMAX campaigns to be primarily shopping focused. Yeah. And so we manipulated the asset classes. We had to think outside the box. And that's what I love about our team is they're always trying to be proactive, even when it seems like we're being forced to do something. Yeah. And it's turned huge dividends for our clients. I mean, one client we talked about in our meeting yesterday, they're in tears of someone just going above and beyond and finding solutions to their problems.
Yep. Oh, it's huge. I think, there's so much that goes into the internet just in general. But like digital marketing in and of itself there's so much that goes into it. So many things you have to be aware of, but I think it, like at the end of the day, like comes down to like, we're gonna problem solve. We're gonna find a solution to what your problem is, and we might have to do something different. We might have to learn something new. We can't. Well, I've done this for a couple of years. I should know everything I need to know. If you live that way, you're gonna die in this world. Like that is a fast way to have your agency fail. Is if you're saying, oh, I know everything I need to know. We're just going to do this for forever. It's like, nope, you can't live that way.
That's why I think traditional agencies have had such a hard time making this transition over the last 20 years. Is they've just tried to fight it for so long because it was easy to say, oh, well, let's just swap out billboards. Let's just swap out TV creative or radio creative. And that was the answer.
Podcasts are going to die. Those aren't going to be a thing. Yeah.
You know, and you're right. If you don't have that mindset of progressing and learning and just being fluid, it's a tough space to be in. People ask like, well, what is this going to look like in 5-10 years? What are you going to be doing? And to be quite honest, I don't know.
No.
But what I do know is I want to be helping my clients figure out a way to grow their business and have influence over their markets.
Oh, it's awesome, man. It comes back to our vision at Spot On Solutions. Get found first. Like we are driven to elevate people and businesses. We just happen to do that right now through PPC and SEO. But in 5-10 years from now, maybe SEO is no longer a thing, and we're gonna have to figure out something different, right?
Maybe we're working within AI.
I don't know. I don't know what it's gonna look like, but listen, we're gonna try and help people elevate their businesses. And currently, right now, this is what we got to do that. So it's cool. Okay, well, Michael, I don't want to keep you too much longer, but I got to wrap up every episode with the same 3 questions I ask everybody. Okay, this has been awesome. I've learned a ton about kind of your motivations of what you've done over your career, and I know a lot of our audience is going to feel the same way. So before we wrap up, 3 questions we ask everybody. First one, favorite book or podcast that you're reading or listening to right now?
So right now, I've been in the middle of Extreme Ownership.
Okay.
And
love that book.
Yeah, it's one of those hard ones because as a leader, you're like, oh crap, like this is on me. It's all me.
Yeah.
And it's a good book to, one, bring you down to the earth, but 2, there's just so many principles about, running a super efficient team, a high talent team. And that's like, honestly, what we have here. By no means am I saying, comparing us to Navy SEALs, but I do think we have a very high performing team. Marketing
in our industry.
And so that's been a huge.
Dude, I don't know what you're talking. I don't look like I'm a very fit Navy SEAL. What are you talking about, dude?
I mean, remember when we said we make decisions based upon food?
Yeah, come on, dude. What are you talking about? No, I'm just kidding. No, 100%. That Jocko, for those of you who don't know, Extreme Ownership, written by Jocko Willink. I've read bits and pieces of his book, but I listened to a lot of his podcasts where he talks about the book, and the guy is he's like, hey, your business sucks. It's not on your employees. It's on you. And you've got to find a way to own that. And it's a really fascinating book.
I've just loved, there was one saying from his book that really has just stuck with me. And it's good leaders are not based upon like what they preach. It's what they're what they tolerate. And so meaning if we tolerate, subpar performance, that's kind of the type of leader we are.
Yeah.
And so we definitely need to not only just stand by our words, but also get in the trenches, do the work, really, really progress and be accountable and hold others accountable to that high level that we want to succeed at.
It's cool, man. Next question. You wear a lot of hats still, even after all these years, you do end up wearing a lot of hats still as manager, VP. So how do you relax at the end of a long day? I know you got 4 kids at home.
Yeah.
So it's busy all the time, but how do you relax, recharge the batteries at the end of a long day?
It's always been some form of meditation, of just being able to go home, take a deep breath, really kind of reflect, and relax a little bit that way. As of late, though, and my wife will laugh at me, but we got a vinyl player in our
Love
room.
Love it.
And I don't know what it is. It's kind of like reading a book in a paperback or like, digitally reading it.
Yes.
Same way with like music. Like I love music, but getting a vinyl record out and putting it on and then sitting in my chair and just kind of just relaxing.
You're an old soul, MT.
Oh yeah,
You're an old soul.
It's that's kind of been the new way to decompress.
What's we're gonna double down a little bit. Favorite album currently that you have on vinyl?
Oh, on vinyl, it's probably got to be Clouded by This Wildlife.
I don't know if I've heard of that.
The acoustic tunes on vinyl, it
sounds awesome.
Slaps, yeah.
Slaps. Love it. Love it. Okay, last question. We've talked a lot about what your career's been, what you did for schooling. If you could rewind to the beginning of it all, what's one thing you would tell younger MT?
Well, aside from what you told me, buy certain stocks,
I say this every episode, and it's a dorky thing, and I got to stop saying, but I'm sorry.
It's true.
If I rewinded 10 years, I would put all of my money into some certain stocks, okay?
100%.
Yeah.
But if I had to go back, it would probably be kind of don't sweat the small stuff. Like, let timing and the world kind of take its place. Things always tend to work out, especially if you're doing what you need to be doing. I saw a saying the other day, and it was like, losers focus on winners and winners focus on winning. Yeah. If from a young age, if you'd start that out of the gate, you just hustled, you do the steps to, that's going to lead you to success, and stop worrying about what others are doing and what's happening around you. Where you'll end up is incredible. And that's kind of what I look back, as I can see the times when I was focused on the external things that shouldn't have been. And there's times when I see, oh man, like that was a great spurt of my life and career, and you can see the growth. And so for me, it's, if I were to be able to give that advice, is be in the moment.
Oh, love it. Michael, thanks for coming on the show, dude.
Thanks for having me.
This was super fun for me. We've known each other and our families for quite a while. We both went to the same high school. And so it's been fun for me to not only work here, but just to get to know you on a better level. And I know our audience is going to find some good value from this. And
awesome.
You've got a pretty large family. So if you just get them to listen to it.
I know, we're going to boost numbers.
We're going to boost numbers just from getting them to listen to it. No. So appreciate you coming on, man. And hope to have you on maybe again in the future.
Yeah. Awesome. Would love to.
Thanks, Michael. This has been Success Elevated, making you a little bit better one show at a time. Thanks for joining us. Please subscribe on YouTube or any other major podcast platform to listen to more episodes. We are proudly brought to you by Spot On Solutions. If you'd like to learn more about how we can help you grow your business, please check us out at spotonsolutions.com.